Bippity boppity boo, y'all. I can't even believe that I'm about to make this video right now because guess what? In one of the two counties here in South Florida between Miami-Dade and Broward, rental prices have actually gone down. And in the other county, rental prices have been trading sideways for quite some time. So I've never made a rental video before, but I want to jump into that for you guys so that anyone who's out there looking to rent will have the best information possible and know what to do in this market right now because it's crazy out there. Jake Fletcher here with eXp Realty, the Fletcher Group. You guys already know I'm right here in Miami, Florida. If you need me, if you need the best realtor in the land, all my contact info is in the description down below. But in this video, we're going to be looking at supply. We're going to be looking at median price, rental price. We're looking at number of new listings, number of sales, all the data and information that you're going to want to know. And honestly, some of it really surprised me. A friend of mine called me the other day and he was like, dude, rental prices are going down. He's another realtor. And I was like, no way. So I looked on the MLS and sure enough, rental prices have gone down, but only in one of the counties and in the other one, like I said, going sideways. So we're going to go ahead and talk about that. Let's not waste any more time. We're going to jump into the first graph here. What I want to show you guys is number of new listings and number of sales. So as you can see there, it went from January 2018 up to September 2022. Even though it's October when I'm making this, because we're talking about sales and new listings, those are metrics that we want to see full complete months. We don't want to see partial months, which is what it would be if I showed you October. So notice there are 260,000 listings. So lot of listings, okay? A lot of inventory there. This is Miami-Dade, and we're looking at residential rentals, okay? So first thing I notice here about this graph that actually kind of surprised me is our blue line there, the number of sales. You can see here, this is the big COVID dip, right? And when they say sales, they're talking about rentals, by the way. It's just that the way that the MLS is set up and the way that the statistics sort of application within the MLS is set up, they refer to everything as a sale. So you can see where the COVID dip was there, boom, and then things went growl, out of control. And then the part that surprised me here is this part we were trending above sort of the average of the previous 2 years, right? And then what we saw was the number of sales or number of rentals went really low, actually lower than the last 2 years, which is contrary to what a lot of people, including myself, would have expected to see, being that we have 1,000 people a day moving to Florida, many of which are moving to Miami. So that was interesting to see. Not sure if it's because a lot of people are renting at, say, like new buildings where there's a leasing center that doesn't report those rentals on the MLS. That could be playing into it, especially people coming from out of town. You know, maybe they don't know a realtor here. They don't follow Jake Fletcher Miami Real Estate YouTube channel or subscribe, or they don't smash the notification bell or or the subscribe button or even the like button. So they might not know that they could work with a realtor to find, things that aren't overpriced, leasing centers, which they always jack up. You're always going to pay more for a comparative rental if you go through a leasing center at, say, like a building like Amly or something like that. You're always going to pay more than you would on the open market for something. And they try to woo you with all the bells and whistles and amenities like you're never going to use. So anyways, so I didn't expect to see that. That was pretty interesting there, that the number of sales went down so low. Now they've popped up since the beginning of this year. Another thing that could be influencing this is that because rental prices have gone so high, and a lot of landlords are jacking up their rent by like $1,000 a month and things like that. People are, maybe potentially kind of hunkering down where they are, accepting, if their landlord only raised their rent by like a couple $100 or something like that, maybe they're like, hey, look, that's better than my buddy who got his rent raised by $1,000. So, there could be a variety of different reasons why those sales are low, but I thought that was interesting. Now we have seen a little bit of a pop up, and then in September, we saw this little downward trend in the number of new rentals, the number of rentals. Now, let's look at the green line there, number of new listings. You can see there's a little bit of a trend line here as the number of new listings go down, right? Now, this could also be backing up what I was saying about people sort of hunkering down. If people aren't leaving their rental unit, kind of hard for that unit to go on the market, right? So I think that that's a very likely part of the equation here. And then we see, okay, hey, look, come to New Year, a lot of people started moving, and that number of new listings went up. Then we saw the number of rentals went up as well. Downturn in the number of new listings in September, downturn in the number of sales/rentals. Okay, so that was pretty interesting, I have to say. Next chart I want to show you blew my freaking mind here. Now this is Miami-Dade, January 2018 to October 2022. So we're moving it up to October rather than September because we're looking at median sale price and we're looking at number of active listings. So we want to kind of have our thumb on the pulse and really get an idea of what's happening now. So Miami-Dade, you can see prices have been trading sideways almost this entire year. You had a downturn in January, a little bit of an uptick in February, and then since March, it's been basically sideways as far as price action goes. That was very interesting to me, and I think that is a sort of call and response of the free market, if you will, to the decrease in number of new listings, aka people hunkering down, to then the pop off of new listings, right? So in the past here, right before that, you had increase in median sale price, right? Which is interesting because if we go here again, you see the January 21 to January 22, we see the median sale prices going up. Well, let's see back here, January 21 to 22, we saw number of new listings going down and number of sales was going down, right? So at the same time that we had less inventory, less sales, we actually were seeing an increase in price, right? And as those sales decreased, landlords were like, hold on a second, maybe we can't keep raising these prices forever. And I think that could be why we're seeing this sideways trading. Now, the next thing is what really blew my mind. We saw in that last graph how there was a decrease in number of new listings, number of new sales. Well, what does that usually equal? It equals a reduction in the supply, right? But look how big this reduction in supply was. I mean, we had like the heyday of the rental market here. You had 13,000 and 13,500 active listings at one point, and then it plummeted to in January 2021 we had such a reduction of rental listings that I was seeing at this time. I was seeing things actually being listed for say like 3,000, but being rented for 4,000. You'd have to go above what they were asking in order to actually rent a thing. And then what we saw, as landlords were like, oh my gosh, these rentals, they're not selling, they're not renting, selling in terms of what the MLS calls it, right? They're not renting. And then, the inventory has started to increase, right? So we saw this big decrease right here all throughout. It started from that heyday was mid June 2020, July 2020-ish right there. And then since there, it was just a big drop all the way to about June, July 2021. So that was when we saw a lot more people moving here, because of the pandemic, et cetera. But it sort of bottomed out there right under 3,000, 3,900, 3,800 listings. And then since the beginning of this year, January 2022, we saw that, like we were talking about, people kind of hunkering down, less rentals happening. And, that has caused the inventory to increase, right? Like if we go back here, we saw number of sales, number of new listings actually has gone up, right? From January 22 to now, right? Number of new listings and number of sales. But at the same time, over here, not but at the same time. In addition, at the same time, we see that is reflected in our active inventory, right? So the total supply is increasing because there's less sales, there's more new listings, and that's kind of reflected here. We saw a little bit of an uptick in sales, but we're seeing more new listings happening. And then all of these lack of sales that were happening here were piling up, right? So wanted to show you the numbers on that. So just a year ago, October of 2021, like I was saying, we were at 3,700 active listings compared to now we're at 8,000 active listings, okay? And then all the while we see the median sale price basically just going sideways, 3,100, 3,200, yeah, I mean, pretty much just the whole time, like staying right around that 3,200 mark, which is a lot of money, by the way. That's, Miami-Dade. Next, I want to show you guys Broward here. So as you can see, this one goes from January 2018 to September 2022 right here. Like I said, we're looking at number of new listings and number of sales. So we don't want to look at an incomplete month for that. We want to have a complete month. So we're looking at Broward residential rentals. Okay. Our green line is the number of new listings there. Blue line is the number of sales. Very similar thing to what we saw happening in Dade County. We see that number of new listings kind of, peaked right around June, July 2020. It was a big old decrease right up until the new year. And then since the new year, inventory has exploded because we saw a big decrease in sales. And then even though sales have picked up, it didn't pick up at the rate that new inventory was coming on the market, okay? Now, this is pretty interesting because what we'll see here in the next one, boom, very similar thing to what was happening in Miami-Dade as far as median sale price and number of active listings, okay? So let me zoom back out there so you can see it goes from, on this one, it goes January 2018 to October 2022. Again, we want to have our finger on the pulse, our thumb on the pulse, whatever it is. So we're looking at all the way up to October, which is when I'm filming this, is October 16. So what we see here, very similar thing to what was happening in Miami-Dade. We saw active number of listings over the last 2 years before the pandemic, kind of similar, rate-ish, kind of, you had a big pop-up here in the summer of 2019, went down for the holidays, back up after the holidays. Then, COVID happened and everybody was like, oh, right? That was the exact sound that everybody did at the same time. And then it was like all the way through the floor. Hit that bottom right around the similar time. It was actually more like August that little trough is. And then come the new year, boom, we see a big ol' increase in the number of active listings in Broward County, okay? So big ol' increase. Then here is the part that you've all been waiting for. Look at this green line. What do you see right here? You see what I see? I see from September to October a pretty substantial decrease so far in the median sale price or median rental price of these properties, okay? So you saw pretty much over the last few years, last 4 years, there's been just like a fairly stable increase, right? Here during that time when we said there was a lot more sales, a lot more people moving here, etc., a lot less listings, so supply was low, demand was high, so price had a big old pop up, and then it kind of flattened out for a second, had one last little pop-up, and now it looks like it's coming back down. And, one reason might be because, again, same thing we see, in Miami-Dade, it was over 100% increase. Here in Broward, it's almost 100% increase. You went from just a year ago, 2,400 active listings to now 4,800. So almost, 5,000 would be a 100% increase. So, that's a big increase in supply. And then check this out. Median sale price, boom. We're at almost the exact same amount that we were a year ago in Broward. So prices have stabilized back to where they were, year over year, actually a little bit less by $12, right? So, and in 1 month from September 2022, it went from 2,900 to this month, 2,688. Now, granted, this could fluctuate. The numbers for Miami-Dade or Broward could fluctuate by the end of this month. So we'll definitely be keeping an eye on this, especially since we've just identified a very interesting trend. But, suffice it to say, pretty interesting that, rental prices in Broward appear to be correcting downward. And while at the same time, Miami-Dade has just been trading sideways since March. It's October, that's 7 months. So pretty wild. Now, last thing I want to show you guys here, I wanted to see if I could find out what price range some of these listings that have been sitting are in. But unfortunately, the way the MLS is set up, it is structured in a way where the prices are based off of sales, not rentals. So like everything groups into like the under $100,000 category because most things aren't over $100,000 a month, although there are, about a dozen or half dozen or so. But anyways, so what I did find though is I can show you guys, this is Miami-Dade and Broward County, as you can see here, and zoom out just a little bit so you can see Can you see if I move there? You can see down here, you're going all the way up to September, right? Because we want to see a complete month for number of expired listings as well, because it would look offset if I showed you just a partial October. But anyways, so we're just looking at the, like, since January of 2022, you can see that the number of expired listings has had a pretty decent upward trend, okay? So what does that mean? That means that these rental listings are potentially not getting rented out. So what does this mean if you're looking to rent a property in the Miami-Dade or Broward areas? Well, personally, I would say since there's been basically a doubling of supply over the last year in both counties, there's a lot more inventory on the market. There's less sales happening / rentals, right? I would say there's probably some room for negotiation, So if it's a property that's, maybe it seems like it's a little overpriced, or it's been sitting on the market for a while, and I'll talk to you about that in a second, maybe there's some room for negotiation, right? So what you want to do is, number one, a lot of renters don't realize they can work with realtors. So head down to the description. My contact info is down there, and I can definitely help you out. And what I would say is you probably want to work with a realtor, because they're going to be able to identify if a property or what properties have been sitting on the market for a while and what they probably should be rented for. So if it's listed for like $3,200 in Miami-Dade, right? That sort of median price. But it looks like, hey, this kind of looks very similar to a lot of properties that have been rented for like $2,800. Well, hey, maybe you don't have to offer the landlord $3,200. Maybe you can offer them $2,800, right? Or maybe even less if it's been sitting for a while. So if I'm a renter in Miami-Dade or Broward, I'm definitely taking a very critical look at what the list prices are for these rental properties, and I'm going to evaluate with my real estate professional whether or not that price makes sense. Don't just pay it because they tell you that's the price, right? Imagine that you're in, a market in, some, foreign country where they do a lot of haggling and negotiating, right? We don't really negotiate a lot here in America. It's not as much of a part of our culture, but in this specific instance, the sticker price is not the final price necessarily, right? There's always room for negotiation in real estate, whether it's price or it's terms or it's both, right? So definitely make sure you're not just taking the price at face value. And, other than that, like I said, you want to work with a great real estate agent. I'm one of them. So if you would like some assistance in the Miami-Dade or Broward areas, definitely give me a call, reach out, message, DM, carrier pigeon, whatever you want to do. If you got telepathy, I don't, but if you can do it, then let's do it. You know what I'm saying? Let's send me a message to my brain and I'll help you out. Would love to help you out, your family, your friends, etc. You guys get the point. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'd be really interested to hear, if your landlord has raised your rent, how much did they raise your rent by? Anything else that you guys have questions about or comments, let me know in the comments down below. Jake Fletcher here with the Fletcher Group at eXp Realty, your Miami real estate agent, and I'll catch you on the next one. Until then, keep on winning. Peace.